Good morning. In the last class, we discussed German unification and we had discussed how it was the army that had played a major role in the creation of the German Empire and not the liberals or not the Democrats that had succeeded in unifying Germany. Similarly, we see a similar pattern in the case of Italy when we discuss. So it says, like Germany, Italy too had a long history of political fragmentation. So, like Germany was divided up into those 39 states, similarly, Italy too had been divided up into small fragments or small pieces. Italians were scattered over several dynastic states, which means ruled by different kings, as well as the multinational Habsburg Empire. Habsburg Empire, the Austro Hungarian Empire, during the middle of the 19th century, which is the time period that we are referring to, Italy was divided into 7 states, of which only one, Sardinia Piedmont, was ruled by an Italian princely house, which means an Italian speaking princely house. The north was under Austrian Habsburgs, which is part of the Austro Hungarian Empire. The center was ruled by the Pope. The Pope is the head of the Catholic Church. And so the southern regions were under the domination of the Bourbon kings of Spain. Now, if you were to take a look at the map of Italy over here, you will see this is Italy before unification. So, this region here in peach or orange, this is Sardinia Piedmont, which, as we said, was ruled by the Italian princely house. Lombardy and Venetia over here were part of the Austrian Empire. The papal state here, which basically means under the control of the Pope or under the control of the Catholic Church. On the bottom here, you have Kingdom of both Sicilies, which was under the control of the Spanish kings, Spanish Bourbon kings. And then you have Parma, Modena, and Tuscany, which were other independent small states which were not part of any of these other states that we have discussed. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So these are the 7 states that existed before unification. During the 1830s, Giuseppe Mazzini, who we discussed when we discussed the topic of the revolutionaries, he founded secret societies and he believed very strongly in Italian unification, with Italy becoming a republic. That was his dream. Giuseppe Mazzini had sought to put together a coherent program, coherent means a logical program, for a unitary Italian republic. He had also formed a secret society called Young Italy, which you have done before, for the dissemination of his goals. Dissemination means the spread of his goals or the spread of his ideas. The failure of revolutionary uprisings, both in 1831 and 1848, meant that the mantle now fell on Sardinia Piedmont under its ruler King Victor Emmanuel II. Basically, the revolutionaries had failed in creating a unified Italy as a republic in 1831 and in 1848, which now meant that, like in Germany's case, it was now Otto von Bismarck and William I who decided to unify Germany. The responsibility, mantle means responsibility. The responsibility fell on Sardinia Piedmont. Sardinia Piedmont being the only truly Italian-speaking kingdom, under its ruler King Victor Emmanuel II, to unify the Italian states through war. So similarly, like we had in the case of Germany, war was the method for unification. The same thing is happening over here. In the eyes of the ruling elites of this region, a unified Italy offered them the possibility of economic development and political dominance. Why unify? Why do these conservatives, why do these rulers want to unify Italy? Because they understand the benefit of a united Italy. They understand that if there is economic development, if there is economic stability, it will allow them to expand their political power as well. When most people are economically satisfied, it's very unlikely that they would revolt, that they would ask for or raise various demands. Now, Chief Minister Cavour, so like you had In the case of Germany, you had Otto von Bismarck. You similarly, like that over here, have Chief Minister Cavour, who led the movement to unify the regions of Italy, was neither a revolutionary nor a democrat. He was a conservative. He did not want to bring about democracy to Italy, nor was he interested in having a large scale revolution to completely change the existing system. Like many other wealthy and educated members of the Italian elite, he spoke French much better than he did Italian, which means that his conservative roots, if you remember right in the beginning of the chapter when we were discussing this section of the aristocracy and the middle class here, we said that most of the aristocracy spoke French for purposes of diplomacy and high society. So he's part of that conservative group. Now, what does Cavour do? Through a tactful diplomatic alliance with France, engineered by Cavour, which means he comes to an agreement with France. What is that agreement? The agreement, very very simply put, is that France would help Sardinia Piedmont defeat Austria, and in return, France would get some territory in return. Sardinia Piedmont succeeded in defeating the Austrian forces in 1859. So again, a war is taking place over here. Apart from regular troops, a large number of armed volunteers, which means civilians who have now taken up weapons, under the leadership of Giuseppe Garibaldi, no relation to Giuseppe Mazzini, they just share first names, joined the fray or joined the movement. In 1860, they marched into South Italy and the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies and succeeded in winning the support of the local peasants in order to drive out the Spanish rulers. So basically, Garibaldi and his armed volunteers, they head to South Italy and they convince the peasants, they convince the local peasants to help them remove the Spanish rulers by saying that these are Spanish rulers, they're not Italian, why are you living under their rule and why are you living under their control? In 1861, Victor Emmanuel II was proclaimed the king of United Italy. So now you have a unified Italian empire like the one that we know today. The peasant masses who had supported Garibaldi in southern Italy, however, much of the Italian population, among whom rates of illiteracy were very high, remained blissfully unaware of liberal nationalist ideology. Basically, what are they saying? Unify ho gaya, but much of this is a political movement which most of the general peasant population does not really know. They don't understand the concept of having a united nation. They don't understand the concept of liberals. Who are they? What are their demands? They don't understand what this unification really means. All they know is that the king has changed. Now you have a new king in place. But what it means, their day-to-day life continues to remain the same to a very large extent, that they remain blissfully unaware. They're happy not knowing that all of these changes are happening. The peasant masses who had supported Garibaldi in southern Italy, so these local peasants, had never heard of Italia being the Italian name for a unified Italy, and believed that La Talia was Victor Emmanuel's wife, which basically means that they had heard of Victor Emmanuel and they had heard of this concept of Italia, but they didn't understand what unified Italy would mean. So that they thought that the word actually was La Talia and she was Victor Emmanuel's wife, which basically mean that most of these changes were political in nature, a transfer of political power from some group of rulers to one ruler, which was Victor Emmanuel II, and for much of the population, they continued to live their day-to-day life the way they were living previously as well. Both of these two cases of Germany and Italy that we have discussed have been about unification through war. The next class, the next session, we will be discussing a case of unification which is not really through war, but through legislation or through joining of parliaments of different countries to create a united country. Thank you.